Prince Andrew may be hiding from public view, but one mysterious royal visit has suddenly raised a much bigger question. Why did King Charles send one of his most powerful courtiers to Andrew's secluded cottage instead of going himself? The royal family is famous for its ironclad secrecy, but sometimes the silence tells a far bigger story than any public statement ever could. Right now, one quiet visit inside a secluded farmhouse at Sandringham has sparked intense speculation across Britain. This was not an ordinary visitor, not a family friend, not a private secretary, and certainly not King Charles himself. Instead, the man stepping out of that car was Richard Benyon, the Lord Chamberlain, one of the most senior and powerful figures in the entire royal household. When someone at that level suddenly spends hours behind closed doors with Prince Andrew, people immediately start asking one uncomfortable question: what exactly is happening behind palace walls? This channel explores the hidden mechanics of power and the raw human cost behind the world's most guarded institutions. Today, we pull back the curtain on the desperate containment strategies surrounding the York family and the brutal calculus of a monarchy that never truly forgets. For years, Prince Andrew lived the exact life many imagined a royal prince would live: grand residences, military ceremonies, luxury, status, and constant, unquestioned privilege. But today, the contrast could not be more dramatic. The once high-profile Duke of York has almost completely vanished from public life, retreating into total silence while controversy continues to shadow his name. According to royal insiders, that silence is very intentional. Andrew has reportedly been staying at Wood Farm Cottage on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, the same secluded farmhouse where Prince Philip spent much of his retirement away from the formalities of palace life. Unlike Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, Wood Farm is surprisingly modest. There are no grand gates attracting tourists, no ceremonial guards, and no glamorous royal atmosphere. Just quiet countryside, narrow roads, trees, and isolation. For Prince Philip, that isolation represented freedom, but for Andrew, many believe it now feels more like exile. Ever since the latest scandal surrounding him exploded into headlines, Andrew's public life appears to have collapsed into complete uncertainty. Following reports that sent shockwaves through the media, he quietly returned to Sandringham away from cameras and public attention. Witnesses reportedly described him slouched in the back seat of a car as he arrived back at the estate. A striking, tragic image for someone who once stood near the absolute center of royal life. Since then, sightings of him have become extremely rare. There are no royal appearances, no official duties, and no carefully staged photographs. Nothing. Behind the scenes, reports suggest King Charles has quietly imposed strict controls over Andrew's lifestyle while he remains on the estate, operating under a cloud of uncertainty that hints at an even bigger revelation waiting to drop. One surprising claim involves horse riding, an activity Andrew once enjoyed regularly at Royal Lodge in Windsor. Advisors reportedly fear that public images of him casually riding around royal grounds during an active investigation would create massive outrage and damaging headlines. Yet, the restrictions may go far beyond simple leisure activities. Some British outlets claim Andrew cannot leave Sandringham freely without direct permission. Others suggest his movements are closely monitored and that approved escorts or chaperones may accompany him when necessary. Even visitors to the farm are reportedly subject to strict approval beforehand. If true, it paints a remarkable picture, not of a powerful prince enjoying royal privilege, but of a man living under quiet supervision while the monarchy carefully manages a growing problem. And that is exactly why Richard Benyon's appearance caused such intense curiosity. The Lord Chamberlain is not an ordinary palace employee. He is the most senior official in the royal household, a figure deeply connected to the monarchy's internal operations, ceremonial affairs, and communication between the crown and parliament. Someone at that level does not casually spend hours visiting a disgraced royal relative unless the matter is considered genuinely urgent, which raises the obvious question: why did King Charles send him instead of meeting with Andrew directly? Some royal commentators believe the answer is straightforward. The king may have wanted sensitive matters handled without the baggage of a direct personal meeting, rather than appearing publicly alongside Andrew, something that could instantly trigger another global media storm. Charles may have chosen to communicate exclusively through trusted senior officials instead. In royal terms, that sends a very powerful message. To many observers, that silence feels deliberate rather than accidental. Royal insiders have increasingly suggested that the relationship between Charles and Andrew has shifted permanently in recent years. Once bound by family loyalty and royal duty, the connection now appears heavily shaped by public pressure, scandal management, and the survival of the monarchy itself. And from King Charles's perspective, the stakes could hardly be higher. The monarchy is already facing enormous scrutiny. Questions about relevance, financial privilege, public trust, and royal conduct continue to dominate headlines. Any new controversy involving Andrew threatens to drag the institution into another damaging crisis at a time when Charles is still trying to define his reign. That may explain why the palace appears determined to maintain visible distance. Every Epstein-related headline, every resurfaced accusation, and every leaked document instantly reignites public anger, placing the royal family back under an uncomfortable spotlight. Inside palace circles, there reportedly remains deep concern that more revelations could still emerge unexpectedly. And that uncertainty may be one of the main reasons Andrew's situation remains so tightly controlled behind the scenes. For Andrew himself, life at Wood Farm now seems entirely defined by waiting. Waiting for investigations to progress, waiting for headlines to calm down, and waiting to see whether new allegations or damaging claims surface again. And perhaps most importantly, he is waiting to discover whether there is any future left for him within the royal family at all. Because while he may still technically hold the title of Duke of York, the reality of his royal life has changed dramatically. The privileges, influence, and public role he once enjoyed appear increasingly distant. That may be the real meaning behind the Lord Chamberlain's mysterious visit. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, and certainly not support, but management. It is careful, calculated, strategic management from a monarchy trying desperately to protect itself from further damage. Because even though Prince Andrew has disappeared from public view, important conversations about his future are clearly still happening behind closed doors. And judging by the palace's cautious behavior, those conversations may be far more serious than the public fully realizes. What do you think is really happening behind palace walls? Do you believe King Charles is handling this situation correctly by maintaining such a visible distance from his brother? Or do you think family loyalty should eventually bring the two of them back together publicly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep royal investigations, hidden palace tensions, and the behind-the-scenes stories that headlines barely touch, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now because this story may very well be far from over. The bigger picture here reveals something troubling about institutional power. When a member of the royal family becomes a liability, the system does not offer compassion or genuine support. Instead, it offers isolation disguised as protection. Andrew's case demonstrates how institutions will readily sacrifice individuals to preserve themselves.